Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Guys, I'm really excited for this week's episode. I have a guest for you. Her name is Kristen Dorion, and she is a really amazing, beautiful intuitive. She is a self-proclaimed starseed and somebody who is, and she is an intuitive, but the work that she does with her clients is what you would classify as something called quantum healing. And so I'm so excited to introduce to you somebody else, another person who kind of lived a very normal, regular upbringing, normal life, didn't know that she had intuitive gifts. It was not something special that, that she kind of knew about from the time she was born. This was very much a practice that she pursued and actively cultivated in her life to then create this beautiful, magical career to help people get back into alignment. And so, like myself, Kristen had, she went through a spiritual awakening and decided to pursue this and create a career out of it. And I'm just so excited to give you guys another example of an individual who really recognized that this is within all of us, that your intuition is your birthright, and you just have to open yourself up to it. With a little bit of practice, you can really easily tap into your intuitive abilities. Now, Kristen's intuitive abilities are so beautiful and unique, and I love that they are definitely slightly different from mine. And she does really work with people to help get them back into alignment, but she also helps with physical healing and quantum healing, which is really sort of healing on all levels, mind, body, and soul. So I'm excited for you guys to learn about everything that she does. She also very strongly identifies as a starseed. So we've definitely talked about what a starseed is on this podcast. Definitely go back to the episode that entitled Starseeds. I can't remember which number it is, but she really gives a beautiful definition for that. And then we also really talk about what it sort of means to be a spiritual person or start to step into this identity of an intuitive in a world that maybe, although is starting to awaken, a world that's maybe becoming more accepting of, putting these gifts on out in public, but what it can feel like when you are initially starting to step into your power and into your intuitive abilities, and what it can feel like to step out of the spiritual closet, if you will. And Kristen gives such a beautiful way and pathway forward to help you start to identify that with this new version of yourself as you step into your intuitive abilities. So guys, there's so much juicy, amazing stuff in this episode. Kristen's going to share with us sort of everything that it means to really embody your intuitive power and what does that look like. She shares with us some other things that she has downloaded and channeled over time, like something called light language. We go really woo in this episode, and I'm just so excited. I learned so much from her, and I know you guys are too. But before I let you listen to Kristen, I do want to remind you guys that the Intuition Activation private Facebook community is open and ready for you guys to join. We have our first live meeting coming up on January 16th. So make sure you join soon. We're going to be hopping on together over Zoom. We're going to do some activation meditations together. I'm going to be doing some Q&A, and we're going to call in our spirit guides, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So make sure that you hop in to the link in the show notes to sign up. And remember that if you buy the Meet Your Spirit Guides course, you get 1 month free in the Intuition Activation community. So grab the course, and then you get free entry into the community, and come and join us on this fun corner of the internet. We really talk a lot about on this podcast, and even in this episode, what it can feel like to go through a spiritual awakening. And it can sometimes feel so isolating. And it's so helpful to seek out people that you can practice with, that you can trust, that you can share your experience with. And that is why I created this community. I want you to go through this in community. I don't want you to be alone in your spiritual journey. I want to be able to support you and see your beautiful face and answer all the questions that you have. So if you're looking for some guidance as you go down this intuitive activation path, come and join us in this community. I know that it's just what you need to feel safe and secure. And that is one of my words for 2025 is calling in my supportive community. And I want that for you guys. So head to the link in the show notes so that you can join us in the Facebook group. And remember, if you buy the Meet Your Spirit Guides course before January 15th, you will get 1 month free in the community. So definitely go and check those two things out. Links in the show notes. And then I do recommend, if you love what you're hearing from Kristen today, we're going to have links for you to reach out to her. But she is going to be joining us in the community later, either this month or next month, undecided date to be determined. But she also has some really beautiful insights on how to activate your intuition. And her exercises and programs are slightly different than mine. It's always nice to have a different take on ways to develop your intuitive abilities. She shares some of them on the podcast today. But if you're interested in working with her more after you hear this episode, come and join the community, because she's going to be showing up in there as a guest speaker and giving us some exercises and running a workshop for us in there too. So definitely, guys, it's getting exciting in the community. Come and join us on the fun side of the internet, where we're just doing all the things that are woo-woo and making them not so crazy, but making them really accessible, normal, fun, and all about connection. So I'm excited for you guys to join us. And without further ado, here is the beautiful, lovely Kristen. Well, welcome, Kristen, to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. We've been trying to get you on here for actually quite a while. So I'm really excited that you're here, because I think you're going to have so many beautiful things for this audience to share. And I just can't wait for everybody to meet you.
Oh, I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped. I literally have butterflies, and I'm like, the moment we start talking, I can feel the high vibes. Like we like spiral each other up, and I'm like, I'm so freaking pumped.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on here.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, so Kristen and I actually met at a mom and tot group, like a mommy gathering group. Our toddlers are about the same age. And we were so excited to discover that we kind of worked in the same field and we kind of do a similar thing. And we had a lot to talk about from the moment we met. We like couldn't stop talking. And so I'm so excited to introduce you, because what you do is actually, although you're an incredible intuitive, what you choose to do with your intuitive abilities is so different from what I do. And this is the thing that I always love to share with my audience and the people that I kind of teach or mentor, is that once you step into your intuitive abilities, once you activate them and you kind of step into your divine power, there's so many avenues that you can explore. There's so much you can do with your intuition. You have so much power. There's so much that can be done. And so you are what we would call a quantum healer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
So I would really love, and we're definitely going to go back into how you got here, but I would love to start with you just sort of sharing what it is that you do and sort of how you serve people and help them.
Okay, I love that so much. I love it. Okay. And just what you're saying about, the power of your intuition, it really it's like this feeling that you really get set free because you start listening to it and following it. And like, I just taught a class on the weekend, and I was just telling them, like, guys, there's nothing really special about me. I didn't come into this world with like these special gifts. I've like very much been like trained myself to do this. And I mean, there is some innate stuff that I think I came in with, like certain galactic codes and things like that. But I really just trained myself to trust the information, to allow it to drop in. And like, when you do, it is so freeing. And I mean, it can take some work to get there, but I'm so passionate about teaching it, which I know you are too. And I love the name of your podcast, Intuition Activation. Like, it's everything. Yeah. So I feel like just hearing us talk today, the audience is just going to be activated in that way, right? Like, just hearing the energy of how we trust ourselves and we can speak on what it is we love. So quantum healing is really looking at the soul's blueprint. So I always say, like, it's everything that we can't see with our physical eyes, the emotions, the mental, the energetic fields, and the spiritual realm. I'm really working with that 4-body system, even the physical. So to be honest, I sometimes I can look at the physical body and see you're holding certain cords, contracts, energies, limiting beliefs just by the shape of your body. And there's so much science that goes around this. I don't get as much into the science. If I do, I start to research and I'm like, okay, cool, got it, got the information downloaded. Let's move on to the next thing. Because I'm like, I fully trust it. Because I'm just really learning from my own practice, I guess you could say. So a lot of the time, how I pick up the information is through the tones and the frequencies of your voice. So you just by telling me what's going on and the things that you're focusing on is such a clear indicator of what we need to look at. And I'm sure all life coaches do this too. Like,
Mhm.
it's just kind of something you start to learn and practice. It's in psychology. And then I just take it a step further. At the same time that I'm doing that, I'm also interacting with the guides, spirit team, ancestors, whoever wants to drop in and come through. Sometimes you can specifically ask me to bring someone in, or I can just see who wants to pop in. So there really is so many different ways we can take it. But what I say is, you know, the clients that I work with are often feeling like really stuck. They're just like on repeat of negative cycles. And they're just like, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know what my purpose is, my mission. And I'm just feeling lost. And I have all these physical ailments happening. And it's like, okay, I can go in and help get you on a path that we can start unraveling all this and like fast track you out of it. I'm also really passionate about accelerated healing. And I know this comes through a lot in my sessions, but it's like, you're going to see stuff shift in like 24 hours and it's going to blow your mind. Things that you didn't think existed starts to happen in your life. Problems you had start to resolve. And it's just really cool. I have like butterflies talking about it. So
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense how I described it.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful and it's so true that I love that you said that, that like once you kind of they work with you, it's like it can happen that quickly because when we work with energy, right? It's like our body's
Mhm.
always looking back, looking for ways to get back into alignment. And so,
Yeah,
and when we do channel our guides, and that's always sort of the essence of why bother connecting to your intuition? Why would you connect to your spirit guides and all of those beings that support you? Their goal is always to help get you back into alignment, get you back on your path of truth. And so if there's a way that you can do that, I mean, with just little things, you can snap back and be on your way, right? And
mhm,
rolling, rocking and rolling fairly quickly if you just take a moment to look within and, channel your
mhm.
guides and figure out like what's missing. What's missing here?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. So
Mhm.
I have a couple of questions about this. I would say, what is sort of if so, so do typically people come in because they're having specific physical ailments, or is it a little bit more of
Mm.
like, I don't know what my path and purpose is?
Yeah, it seems to be more curiosity based. They're just like, I know there's something out there and there's something bigger, and I just want to know more and I don't know what it is. It's almost like they're being nudged to me. And I think it's very much to do with my own energy because I'm like when I really started to work with energy, I'm like, well, I'm only open and available to the clients that actually want to work with me and that actually have shifts. So it's like I don't even get clients that come to me and that experience nothing because I'm just not that's not who I'm here for. And I just drop that in and I allow that to be. So I'm like fully trusting in that process. So it seems to be a lot of people who are very curious. They're like they can just they sense something bigger than themselves. They're like maybe experiencing a lot of synchronicity and they're like, what does this even mean? And and typically, they're not exactly coming to me because of their physical ailments. It just tends to come up in session because I just if you've got stuff happening physically, that's such an alarm system to me. It's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? So I'm like, we're gonna look at that, and I think it's a little bit mind blowing when I tell people, I'm like, that everything absolutely can be healed because there's so much out there that says, you're stuck with this for life and this is what you have to take for your whole life. It's so not true. You can literally heal everything. It's all got an energetic blueprint that can be unraveled. And it's just really cool.
It's so true, and
Mhm.
definitely there we don't have to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole for sure, but there's definitely a lot of, money behind the indoctrination of that messaging,
Mm.
right? And so,
Mhm.
it's so empowering to step into this idea that I can heal myself, right? And that it's all
Yes.
available, like that power is always within me, which is so
Mhm.
I love that.
And we do that through our intuition, right? And I think that's why we get passionate about teaching intuition because I'm like, if you intuitively tap in, think about the things that you can create. And we're not like so much always like leaning on each other. Now we're like all in our own power. And I just think like if everyone was in their own power, like this planet would be so magical and free and peaceful and yeah.
Yeah. And I strongly feel, I don't know, tell me if you feel this, but definitely this year there's an energy shift. There's a paradigm
Mm,
shift happening. I'm feeling like this stuff that you and I do, I think even just a few years ago, we would have been so on the fringe and so taboo. And I
mhm,
think now it's becoming so much more commonplace. So many more people are willing to step out of the spiritual closet, if you will, and say, "Hey, I'm
mhm,
interested in this. Hey, I'm tapping into this. Hey, I'm excited about leaning into my intuitive abilities." I think that there's a global consciousness and awakening happening. Do you feel this too?
1,000%. I literally said the exact same words, I think, yesterday, because when I taught my class, it was like I had 9 people show up, and they all showed up very last minute, and I was just, like, in the moment with these people being like, "This is the way the world's going." Everyone is ready to dive into more about the soul and, like, what there's bigger things than this human body, and it's like, oh, there is a big shift, and it's accelerating. So, like, last year I felt it too, but this year is, like, quantumly shifting, like, higher.
Yeah. I definitely think that there had to be sort of an unraveling that happened from 2020 through to
Yeah.
2024. I think a lot of even the people who, the astrologers and right, like all of the people who kind of are deep into the work of reading the stars, they had a little bit more insight on this. And I
Yeah.
am no astrologist, but I know there was definitely a lot of talk out there of like between 2020 and 2024, there was going to be a lot of unraveling. So, and kind of wiping the slate clean, if you will, bringing
So
things
true.
darkness to light so that now kind of 2025 onward there's a lot more of like okay, we've crumbled everything to the ground, now we can build again. And that's really the feeling and the energy that I sense with this
Mhm.
year. And it's not necessarily an energy of let's go, right? This like let's hustle culture, let's work hard. It's a lot
Mm-mm.
more of like let's get quiet and come home to ourselves. And I think a lot more people are waking up to the brilliance of our innate nature, which is to be in flow and to be
Mhm.
receptive rather than, chasing.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm feeling for this year. Do you feel the same thing?
Absolutely, yes. Like you said it so beautifully. A common mantra I tell myself is like, the slower I go, the more things fall into place. The slower I go, the more things all work out. Like, I'm like, how good does that feel? That feels
Ah,
freaking amazing.
that is I'm adopting that mantra. That is beautiful. That is
Yeah,
beautiful. That's better than
yeah.
the one that I was gonna start using. I was starting to tell myself, just let it be easy, let it be easy. But I like that. So
Still,
I
that's
got
still nice. That, like, ease is such a theme this year. Like, everything I ask. So sometimes, I don't know if you did this too, like you do this, but I'll make universe statements. I'll say, "Universe, show me what it's like to have this, this, and this." And then it would happen, but what would happen is my whole life would kind of shatter and crumble. It would feel really hard. So now I'm adding in, but with ease. I'm
but with
like,
ease.
"Universe, do it with ease."
Yes, I like
Yeah.
that. Make sure you sometimes have to be specific. It can be a little literal.
So literal. So literal. Yeah.
So I would really love to walk back a little bit into sort of your journey. How did you grow up? I take it that you and I are very similar in the sense that you weren't necessarily like you were a kid who woke up and was like, "Oh my god, I have these supernatural powers." I think this
Yeah.
came to you sort of over time and gradually. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit of like your background and your spiritual awakening story. How did you come to this place of doing what you do now? Because it's not something that's taught in school.
No, no. Oh my gosh. Oh, so fun. I'm like so excited to just talk about it because I think, yeah, growing up, I was trying to find it, but I didn't know what I was trying to find, right? Like,
Mm.
you know, there's something, but no one's showing you or teaching you, so you're kind of lost. But my massive awakening was in 2020. So, which I think a lot of star seeds, right? I was part of that really big lump of star seeds. But if I were to look back as a kid, like I grew up like always with this inner knowing that I had a mission and a purpose. I remember being around 4 years old, standing in my living room and seeing one of those commercials with the children that had no water or no clean water and food, and being just like, why is the planet like this? Like, I'm like, I know peace exists. I remember thinking and feeling this. I know peace exists. Like, why are we not experiencing this? And I just felt in that moment I was going to make it my mission to figure it all out. And but at the same time, no one's supporting you in that. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm watching the world. Like, I remember watching my parents and just seeing how like frustrated and angry they are with life because it's so busy and they're working all the time. And I'm just kind of like observing the world. And also I felt very alienated. I felt very different than a lot of people. So I didn't have a lot of friends. And the friends that I did have weren't very trusting, weren't very truthful. I really didn't develop I have like true friendship until like later on in my life.
Hmm.
And it was like it almost felt like I didn't even wanna put myself out there to people I didn't feel were really good-hearted. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, later in life, and I went through like different depressions at a young age, trying to just figure out what life was all about. So when I became an adult, it was so freeing for me. I was like, I'm gonna go here, do this, and just be really, really free. And that kind of led more into like, partying a lot because, I wasn't allowed out and doing things like that. So, and I met my husband at the time. I was 18 and, I was just excited to be free and do things. So we were very different. I used to go out drinking a lot. I worked in a bar and he was very much a homebody. So that was like a whole journey in itself. But always along the way, 2008, I think the book The Secret came out,
Hmm.
I want to say. And I remember getting it. Like, I literally can remember picking it off the shelf, reading this book, and being like, I feel like I read this book. I'm like, I know everything that's in here, and I do these. Because I've always kind of been this innately positive person. I've seen how that positivity ripples into your life. And, I never spiraled too hard into like the dark side. I always, for some reason, was somehow pulled out through spirit or whatever was going on. And then okay, I read that and I was like, cool. I always told my husband, like, I manifested you. And he always kind of thought I was like crazy. And then you like let it go. I think, what if we think back to 2016? Now I'm like, something has happened. I think I remember seeing on the news there was discovery of an exoplanet, and a planet that could potentially hold life. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it. There's extra life out there. Like we can reach them. It's so possible. And that really ignited in something in me. I literally went home every single day searching on the internet and YouTube to find proof of interstellar travel. Like, I knew that we could go from planet to planet, galaxy to galaxy. Like, I just knew with absolutely no reasoning behind it, but I couldn't find the information anywhere. So I kind of like reached a dead end and I was like, huh. And at the same time, network marketing came into my life and I was like, do I want to build a business and like use my manifestation skills? So I did that, kind of went away from, learning more about space and the cosmos. And when that started, like, it really skyrocketed kind of quick, and then it kind of all slowly crumbled. And I was like, what's going on here?
Mm.
And, I really, I really had to allow myself to be supported in a lot of ways. It was my sister-in-law who offered to coach me for free because she was finishing up a program in her holistic coaching. And that really awakened something in me to really strengthen the bond between me and my higher self. And I started to look at how much I didn't love my network marketing business and how I could let that go, because after so many years, it was hard to let it go and be like, you mean I got to drop this? So, but I loved coaching. I loved coaching. So I allowed myself to kind of dive into coaching. And literally immediately when I first started practicing with people, I wanted to look at chakras for absolutely no reason. I was just like, you're telling me this. Well, I immediately want to start looking at energy centers. And that just led me on a path. So at the same time, I was also receiving Reiki for the first time. And I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. I'm like, what is this doing? This is the silliest thing. Like, how is this working? But I went from a state of complete like despair. I was so lost, powerless, to days later after my Reiki treatment, writing in my journal how powerful I feel.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, what's happening? So I started to start really leaning into energy and how that all works. I got really passionate, started working with clients and just talking about energy stuff. And I never thought I was meant to do Reiki at the time. And then I just kind of like leaned in, learning more about it, and quickly jumped into quantum leaning because you want to discover more. But what will I say? My spiritual awakening, that pivotal activation moment, knowing I was a starseed, knowing I was a soul, was 2020. I was sitting on the couch with my little foster dog because I worked for the shelter at the time, and I was sitting there just kind of so lost in life, and I was watching Gaia. Did you know Gaia Network?
Yeah.
Gaia.com.
Yeah.
I used to watch the shows on there, and the show was called Transcendence.
Mm.
And just all of a sudden, this download drops into my body. Like, you can literally feel it going from the head to the toes. This like kind of bubbly, vibrant energy drop in, telling me that I'm a soul and that everything is happening for me and not to me. Um, like kind of like more of my galactic codes coming in, like how I'm more extraterrestrial than I even know, and how my spirit team was like literally there, and I literally, it was so funny when I voice noted my friends in that moment. I'm bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, I can feel my guides hugging me. I can't see them, but I can feel them,
Mhm.
and that was kind of like my pivotal moment into like this world, and it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper, deeper the more I lean
Yeah.
in. And yeah, and
Oh
now we're
my gosh. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. And I really love that you like that you own now that you're a star seed.
yeah.
And that's such a journey in and of itself to kind of go like, I'm actually like an alien, right? Right.
Oh yeah.
But we talk about this a lot on this podcast, and I have a whole episode dedicated to what it means to be a star seed. But I would actually
Mhm.
love coming from, one herself. What would you call like what would you define a starseed and how could somebody identify if they too were a starseed?
I love that. Yeah, it's so funny. I remember too, like not fully knowing I was a star seed and being like, I had a call with a girl and she's like, she claims she's a star seed, and I'm like so excited to meet her, and like fully not tuning into the fact that I am one too. And it's not like this, like not like a celebrity view thing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I like I guess star seed for me is where I never like to look at it as like a higher perspective thing, but I see it as volunteer souls that came to this planet who don't carry a lot of Earth codes necessarily. They carry more galactic codes to help shift the frequency here. So we're not as karmically entwined as majority of the human race.
100%. I would
Yeah.
I couldn't
Do
have said that better myself.
okay, I love that. I love that.
No, that's I think I love that we have a very similar definition, but I love the way you worded it, and it really is, it's
Um,
so true. Whenever I meet star seeds in my practice, because I will have clients and I'll channel for them and kinda go, "Oh, you're not an earthly soul, like, you're a star seed.
mm,
Your soul has not spent many lifetimes here on the planet, like, you
mm,
voluntarily chose to come down to raise the frequency here for some reason," right? There's
yes,
usually
I love
a
that.
very specific mission that you have when you come, and it's like I need people to know this about themselves, or I need to teach them how to raise their vibration in this way or in that way. And so a lot of the, and depending on where you're from, right, that might sort of align with what your mission is. Do you have like an understanding or an idea generally of where your soul has kind of previously
Mm,
lived? Like I know some people say they're Pleiadian or Arcturian or
yeah.
things like that. Does that align with you at all, or have you explored that at all?
Totally, totally. And in the beginning stages of my journey too, I was obsessed with starseed information. Like I was like, tell me everything about every planet and what they know. And it was really cool. Actually, one of my beginning things when I started, because I knew so much information, because I would research it, I'd be like, this is means you're Palladian, this means you're Syrian, and all these things. So I was doing these free readings, and I was like, I'll just tell you what I think you are based on these characteristics. And then I started channeling. I, all I needed was your picture, and I could channel the information. The only way I knew that I was right is because the person would come back to me and say, "Oh my god, I've been told this before." So I was like really confirming it for people because I had no idea why this information was dropping in and how.
Hmm.
But what I'll say is I'm a very strong lion energy. I very much resonate with the lion. I have a lion tattoo on my neck that I got when I was 18. Um, I feel like a lot of my roots come from there. And then also, I don't know if you've heard of Sundari. It's not a
No.
common one,
No.
but and I mean, I haven't really tapped into it a lot, but it resonates. They're kind of a hybrid fairy angel.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I need to learn more about that because I have to be really honest with you. So, people always ask me like, "Jessica, what's your soul?" Right? Like, are you an earth angel? Are you a star seed? Are you
Yeah.
an earthly soul? And I've definitely seen many past lives of mine here on earth. So, I know I've had, and there's definitely a lot of karmic things going on between me and my family members, and we've had past lives together. My husband and I have had a couple past lives together. So, I know there have definitely been some
Mm.
of those. And then but then there's a side of me that also I know as a kid so strongly relating to sort of the fairy world, right? With
Yes.
like
Yeah.
fairies and mermaids and like
Million%.
all of that. So I know that technically we wouldn't classify that as a galactic being. I would still call it a starseed in the sense that maybe your soul wasn't in the or was on the earth realm, but in a different frequency, if you will,
Oh,
right?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right? Like
Mhm.
because I would say fairies and mermaids, they
The
live.
elementals.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Oh,
Elementals. Yeah.
okay, See, I'm
Yeah.
learning something new right here now. So I think that maybe that's where I sort of land, right?
Yes.
In that realm where it's like, I don't know if I necessarily left the earth plane, but definitely maybe from some different frequencies.
Yes. Oh
That's
my god,
kind of where
yeah.
I think I am, but I'm not sure because I've never and anytime I talk to somebody who's a starseed, they always have had, a childhood fascination of the planets and the galaxies and stars, and that was never my experience as a child.
Okay.
That wasn't something that I was like, "Oh, I miss home," right? Earth has always really felt like home for me. So, I've never identified as a starseed in the same way. So it's always really interesting because people think, well, that must be why Jessica's so intuitive. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We're all intuitive, right?
Yeah,
No matter where our
exactly.
soul came from. But definitely still haven't quite identified exactly what I would classify my soul as because I definitely think there's been a lot of jumping around.
Yes, yes. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I love that you said that because when we got into the starseed conversation, I'm like, I'm not seeing much starseed energy present itself to me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but you're very high vibrational. The elemental realm, absolutely. But
Hmm.
I also say one other, like, also kind of in other dimensions of reality, planets, similar elemental frequency that I'm picking up on. Which
Mm,
is, yeah, like you said, we're all still galactic and cosmic in a sense. It's just kind of like how, I guess, how where our souls sort of recycled from the most.
yeah.
It's such a
Right. I feel like it could be sort of a sense. I mean, if we go by the understanding that our souls are infinite, right? I mean,
right.
there's pretty much a chance that your soul hasn't spent every single lifetime here as a person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always kind of go by where has your soul been most recently prior to this?
Yes.
And that will sort of reflect most
Love
in your,
that.
right? So where
Absolutely.
was your last 3 to 10 lives, right?
Mhm. Okay. That's
Yeah.
such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I also resonate a lot with Octarian. I don't
Hmm.
think I necessarily have a full lifetime, but I have very strong Octarian guides, which I think is why I get so passionate in like health and wellness healing. They
Hmm.
bring a frequency through their fingertips, and I do it in my channeling. Like I'll bring through the codes and like it's so crazy. Like I even blow my mind sometimes. Even in class the other day, this girl couldn't even sit with her legs crossed. And I just sent these codes through very intentionally. And next thing you know, she's sitting cross-legged. Like she couldn't even put her hip down. And I'm like, it blows my mind too. I'm like,
It's so neat. I know, this is what I always say to people, I'm like, "It's not me, I'm just, like, this vessel, and it comes
yeah,
through, and, like, I don't even know what I'm doing." It just
it's
comes.
true. It's true.
Yeah. Okay, I really would love to sort of dial into sort of your channeling experience, right? What was sort of your
Mm.
process? Because, and forgive me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, but you do channel guides when you're working with clients, right? You call in the beings of light and all of those other things. So, how did you get to a point where you were able to kind of download or channel in that way, receive the messages, and even
Mhm,
be told how to
mhm.
play with these codes and manipulate these codes? Like, how did you learn how to do that?
Okay, great question. I also feel like there's so many different ways of channeling. And just my way is very conscious. I think you're a conscious channeler too, but you kind of also go into like a trance state. Do you?
Yeah, no, it depends. I always say I'm clairvoyant, so I'll call up
Okay,
a meditation, I'll call in the guides, and then I'll do it with my eyes closed and I can see. But there's definitely a delay. Like I'll take a moment and see the movie going in my head, and then like it's
cool.
what I'm seeing. As time has gone on, now I can sort of allow a spirit or an angel to take over and speak through me, and then I don't remember
Okay.
that, right? So it
Okay,
has.
cool. Okay,
And that's
very
what
cool.
you hear in sort of my, we do on this podcast and energy forecast. So I'll call in a guide and have them speak
Yes.
through me for the month,
Okay,
energy for the
that's
month
what I
ahead.
thought.
That's new for me. But normally it's like I'm clairvoyant. I'm just seeing them, talking to them. I hear them and I see them, and they show me a little movie with a couple of words, and then I interpret.
Mm.
So very different than what you're doing. So explain your channeling process. What does
Okay,
it look
okay.
like for you?
Love it, love it.
Yeah.
So, similar in that sense too. So the clairvoyant side of things. It's almost as if like I'm having like five conversations at once.
Okay.
Like I'm asking the question, I'm looking at the human, I'm hearing the ego, I'm hearing the guide, maybe the ancestor, and then also the timeline energy come in. Like I had this visual very strongly the other day, but I'm literally having five conversations at once because I'm talking with different variations and multi aspects of your being. And at the same time, I'm also telling my human to be like, step back, step back, step back, clear space, clear space, clear space. Because I'm also, the clearer I am, the more I can receive and bring forth for the other person. So sometimes, my human logic wants to come in and may have an opinion. And I'm also like, hey, just step back for a second. But it's happening so fast. Like the more and more I keep doing it, it's like it's not that I have to tell her to sit back. It's almost like an energy I get to her body. But um it does come in different ways for different people. If sometimes I will close my eyes because it just helps me come back in. I find I can once you disconnect from the visual world, it's like, okay, now you can really come back into that space. Um, but it drops in as visuals, as words too, feelings a lot of the time. So what I'll say too is in quantum healing, I tell my body to proxy the other body. So tell your body to show my body. So this is how I can do it virtually. Because now I'm telling your body to show me what's going on. So certain pings and stuff will light it. Like if my heart starts to get really tense, I'm like, I know you've been through some serious heartbreak. You've got a lot of grief going on. So I can start working there, things like that. And this is where the Arcturian kind of comes in because I can start running codes working with your heart right here and there where you're like across the world. And channeling, yeah, it's been a journey. So kind of actually what propelled me into the spiritual journey is because I became very, very fascinated with channelers. I would sit there all day watching people channel Arcturian energy, Pleiadian energy, like go really deep into that trance state where they can't remember. I would just memorize. And I remember my husband being like, how do you even know this is real? Like he thought it was so weird. And I'm like, because it feels really good in my body. Like my body feels good and I feel activated listening to this information. So I became really passionate and I wanted to learn how to do it. I was like, I want to be able to channel. And it felt really hard for me. I remember in 2020 when I was really wanting to learn how to do it. And I hired an energy coach and I'm like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. I'm like, I don't know what it is. It wasn't until like our sixth session where it started to drop in and be like, I've been feeling it the whole time. I just wasn't like allowing myself to realize it. It's like so weird. And yeah, I think allowing yourself to receive the information. So I'm not searching for something. So I'm like, let go, drop in, drop down, drop in, versus kind of bringing my mental energy up here and sifting for stuff in the cosmos. Like, no, that doesn't feel good. It needs to like drop in like a download. So that's how I channel.
Okay. So let's say you're working with a client. Like, is there a process that you go through to kind of drop in enough to,
Mm.
I mean, here, I
Oh,
always use it
okay.
to get grounded enough or like do you
Hmm.
take a minute to call the guides in? Like, do
Hmm.
you take a few deep breaths? Like, how do you get into that headspace or
Okay,
heart
yeah.
space, I guess?
Yeah, exactly that. Mine is grounding. So I'll just say body, ground me into Mother Earth. And because I've done it a few times, I just kind of wait for that like pain to happen to be like, okay, I know that my tailbone's kind of anchored in and I've pulled that gold cord down.
Mhm.
And then body connect with my soul star. So I see that gold cord connecting up to my soul source point.
Okay.
And then I ask my body to clear anything in my field that does not serve the highest good. So I see this as a big effervescent white bubble that blasts through my field and clearing it. And a lot of the times, I might yawn or like move energy through my body to let it go. And then I'll say, calling in my spirit team, beings of light here to assist us, bring us in the highest information for the highest good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I do keep it really simple.
Yeah.
I keep it really simple.
No, I'm so happy that you're bringing this in because this is exactly what we always talk about on this podcast is that there's, everybody's intuitive and there's so many ways to sort of drop in and get grounded. And we
Mhm.
really want to explore what is the way that works for you. Because for me,
Yeah.
a lot of people have said that, Jessica, your process is so long, right? Like it takes forever for me to get dropped and grounded. And I teach it in a really long winded way because I need that much. My mind goes a million miles an
Mhm.
hour. I need to do this long winded meditation. I need
Right.
to do all of these things. And I say, but most people don't necessarily need that much. For some people, it could be as much as just calling them in, right?
I love that.
Guides and so I always want to know like what's your process and what does that look like? So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I want to add here one other piece, which is first of all, You said one thing that was really interesting. Actually, 2 things that are really interesting that I wanna kind of, like, double click on.
Yeah.
So one is that you said that you call in and you connect to your unique soul star, and I've heard this
Mm.
term before. And I've heard it in some manifestation, meditations and things, but I actually have never dived deep enough into what does that mean. So could you explain that for us?
Mhm.
What is that concept specifically?
Yeah, so for me, it just means you're sort of where all of your soul's information coding comes from in the most recent lifetime, like you mentioned, what you kind of most resonate with.
Okay.
So it's kind of like my recent current reincarnation planet before coming here. And it's kind of carrying all like those galactic codes. So I can start channeling in all that information.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people call it the 12th chakra as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So there
learning.
is like kind of different variations, but that one has always really landed with me. And I think because I just really connect with the stars and the cosmos, and that one just feels like I can feel that energy in my body and it feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much. Thank you for sharing that. And then the
Yeah.
other thing I really wanted to kind of double click on, because you keep mentioning I can do codes on people. Can you sort
Oh,
of zoom in? What does that mean? What does that look like?
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is this magic, Kristen?
So the way that I'll explain, are you familiar with light language?
Yes, but please
Okay.
explain it for our listeners.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so for me, it's actually relatively new that I've actually dropped in like actual voice light language. When I first started, I started doing hands only, and I could like start coding different parts of your body just by simply using my hands. And I almost think of it like, when you channel information and it's like very intuitive, this is also the same. It's
Okay.
just my body's now making the motion.
Okay. Got it.
So, and now light language to me feels like the same thing. Now it's going to come through my voice. So I'm a little bit nervous to do it because I haven't done it so publicly yet. I,
No,
I
show
will,
us, please.
I will do it privately in session. So funny.
Yeah,
So let me just tap in for a second.
sure.
Taya taya sequoia taya suya kaya taya suya taya taya. So okay, this is specifically codes that so whoever's listening to this will be activated by their soul stars.
Mm.
Taya taya sequoia taya saya maya taya uya taya suya taya suya taya kataya uy saya taya hai wataya kaya taya ta ja so funny. I can feel my ego being like, "Kristen, this is going on the internet." I'm like,
No, I love it. My body
but
is
how did you feel? Yeah.
vibrating. I'm
Okay.
vibrating, my toes are tingling. I'm like, whatever she's doing, it's activating something in me. So I really love it.
Thank you. I'm
Hey,
glad.
something to aspire to for me. I don't know that I have gone that far in my channeling journey yet. And so I'm so excited to eager. That's
Oh,
so excited to have you on the show because I was like, I'm gonna learn
oh,
so much from her
girl.
today.
So fun.
And that's really I wanted to open up because I know that like we always allow our sort of ego to get in the way of like, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, I'm gonna be so weird. But that's what I love about
Yeah.
this podcast and why I want to bring the things that people have always kind of they knew about, but it's like on the fringe. And I'm like, this is the safe place. This is the community where we talk about all of those crazy things and we normalize them because
Yeah.
they're our birthright. They're who we are. And the more
Mhm.
that we normalize it, the more we can come into it. And I actually would love to sort of pivot to this aspect because this is an issue that comes up a lot in this community is people kind of going, I know that I have this gift within me. I know been channeling my whole life, and I'm terrified to share it with
Right.
other people. Like I have these messages and I have them for the people around me all of the time, and then I
Mhm.
bite my tongue and I don't share it.
Yeah.
And that becomes a huge roadblock to then developing your intuition because if you don't share it, then you can't receive confirmation from people and start to trust yourself, right? So, how was
I
that journey
know.
for you? How was sort of stepping out of the spiritual closet, if you will, for you? What did that look like? How did that feel? You know,
Yeah.
where are you now in that process?
Oh, I know. I've been through it all. I've been through it all. Like, I remember that first post being like, I'm coming out of the spiritual closet. And it's like, But, like, it really is so freeing, like, now I'm just like, I am an alien, like, if you don't wanna be around my alien energy, then that's cool, like, I'm like but, yeah, I think that constant unraveling of who you are and who you want to be really keeps that going. I keep getting this visual of, the levels of consciousness. This was something that really stuck with me when I was doing work. It's, by David Hawkins. It's basically the scale that shows you the vibration of certain feelings. So, like, anger, there's grief, there's, like, anger, desire even, and then in the middle, you've got courage. And
Mm,
courage is the turning point from a force to power.
okay.
So you have to really take that courageous leap to allow the power to come through. And sometimes we have to do it like little steps just to make it happen. But the
Mm,
more and more you do lean into who you are, right, the more free you become. And I think that hesitation to do so, it's just showing you parts of you that you just need to heal and that you signed up to come and heal, like you chose to do that. And the more and more you lean into it and you trust that, it just gets easier and easier. But I mean, if I look back at the journey and the process, it didn't feel like that in my mind. It was kind of something you just had to move through. And I think this is where community and support really comes into play, because being on your own in that is very, very difficult. So having those people that you can confide in. I remember being in different soul sister groups, just being able to be like, telling all the weird stuff that you're feeling and thinking, and helping them see it from an objective point of view. Because when you're in it, you're in it. It's hard to see the outside view, right? Until you can get really good at it. And then raising your vibration. So, doing things that are good for you and your body will really help that to transpire in those ways as well. Like, the more you feel good, you're going to make better decisions. You're going to have mental clarity and all that stuff. And it all kind of gets intertwined. But if I were to take someone through a process, in every program I pretty much teach, I always start by connecting with your higher self. Can you strengthen that connection between you and your higher self? Just make that connection. And that's very intuitive, right? Because I feel like when you start to do the shadow work, knowing that you have your higher self on your side so closely will really support you when you're going through that shadow work and unveiling all that like icky stuff you just want to get rid of.
mhm.
And then, then you start to like master clearing your energy field. How can you start moving through the world and not take in the emotions and the projections of everybody else?
Yeah.
Third part is raising your vibration, doing things really, really good for your body, setting the boundaries, all that stuff. And then, the fourth pillar really is being able to expand, to be in the energy expansion and like kind of doing all that once and trusting the ride and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Oh,
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that process. I love how you kind of leave that in step or laid it out in steps. That's so
Mm-hmm.
and so healing. Just I could listen to
Mm-hmm.
you talk all day. Um,
Oh,
you give such beautiful insights. And so there's sort of I know we're kind of starting to come to an end, but there's one thing that I really, really would love for you to share here, which is, the biggest reason that I really wanted you to have you on this podcast is because we really do teach some similar things or in the same vein, which is that we really want people to know, like both have this big mission and message that we're all intuitive, right? That
yeah.
everybody has this intuitive ability. Everybody can connect to their galactic guides, to their spirit guides, to their angels, to source, if you will. And that's really the message that needs to go far and wide. And so for somebody who is just starting out, for who kind of recognizes I have this beautiful soul and I want to start connecting to those beings of light who support me,
Mm.
how would you recommend they get started? What are some things they can
Mm.
do to start activating their intuition?
Mhm. My very, very first thing, and this is how I started, and people who, yeah, who literally haven't done anything yet and they're just like ready. I think this is a good practice. Just get a piece of paper and a pen, and just get quiet for a minute. Like, come into your own universe. I love closing my eyes, turning my eyes inward, and really facing into that dark space within your body, and really seeing it as a universe. Now you're in your own space. And really connecting with the breath just to help you anchor in. And once you feel you've kind of made that quiet connection, you're going to call in your higher self and just say, you can say body or you can say your name. So, body, calling your higher self. And once you've done that, just feel what sort of reaction your body has. And it could be very, very subtle. When I was doing the soul star, when I connect with the soul star, I almost feel as like my head will tilt straighter.
Mm.
Things like that. Or, oh, in the beginning, I remember I used to feel the flutteries over top of the head. Like, it
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, someone's touching my hair. Like, what is going on? And that's just gonna help you so that when you write on this paper, you're gonna say, so if I was doing it for myself, I'd say, Dear Kristen, this is your higher self. I have a message for you. And then you're gonna just write what comes through. Just let it come.
I love that.
You'll be so surprised that like your higher self is literally right there sharing information with you. You just gotta allow it in.
Oh,
And it's like go time.
that's so gorgeous. Oh my God. So I know we've definitely talked about sort of automatic writing on this podcast before, but I've never done it through that perspective. I've always done it
Oh, yeah.
spirit guides. Like I would even encourage people like ask a question, like ask your spirit guide and let it channel through. I
Mhm.
love this idea of just connecting with your highest self and like letting your energy bring it through. Like that is the most empowering thing. I'm gonna try that tonight.
Love it.
I'm so excited. That is a really great way of doing it. Oh my
Good.
goodness, thank you.
No, you're
I
welcome.
and I guess I would ask you also like, when you channel, would you say that you have like there's only one way that it comes through? Like would you say
Mm-mm.
like, oh, I'm predominantly seeing things or hearing things, or is it sort of like it's coming through every sense of my body? Um, and sort of how do you I guess the question is how do you trust that? Because the thing that a
Right.
lot of people kind of get stopped on is how do I distinguish this from my thoughts? How do I know that it's
Oh.
not just me making it up and it's not just a
Ooh,
thought
yeah.
in my head? How do you distinguish and start to trust what's coming through in that moment? How do you know you didn't just
Yeah.
imagine it all?
Mhm, absolutely. Very good question. And I teach this in Ignite Your Intuition, my program it'll come out in a couple months. But um and the basis of that program is because of how I was taught. It wasn't until I actually practiced it with real people and got real time feedback that I knew it was correct. Because yeah, you're kind of just gonna be like, I don't even know. Sometimes you do need that validation tool just to know you're on the right track. So I did a session on the weekend as well, and she asked me to bring someone who had passed, like past loved one.
Yeah.
And I don't usually typically do like mediumship, but it comes through. But I'll describe what I'm seeing. And then she'll be like, yes, yes, yes. And then I know I've got the right person.
Mhm.
So I kind of just sometimes I give that so I can get the validation from them. And I take all the pressure off myself. I think that's a big thing. When I got to practice in a group setting, when I did like my actual quantum healing training, I remember being in a group on Zoom and being like, I'm so afraid to share what came through because I have no idea. Like, I don't know what this information is. And then when I started getting people like, oh my God, that was me. And you visualize, you saw me exactly what I was doing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm psychic. Like,
Right?
so you do have to just take the pressure off and be like, it's okay if you're wrong. So I remember feeling like I was wrong. I was about 50-50 in that program. I wasn't getting everything right all the time. But what it allowed me to know was when I could now start comparing the energy that when I was wrong and when I was right and know which one to follow.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that real time feedback will be really helpful. You could, depending on whatever you want to channel, you could like maybe even think of a time in history and Google the answer. Play
Mhm.
with your friends and do some telepathy or things like that. Like, yeah, I hope that answers your question. But
No, it
it's so fun.
100% does, and I love it because I'm sitting here going like, "Preach, sister," because this is what I share all the time. I always tell people that the only way to start trusting what comes through is to and it kind of lets us circle back to that beautiful piece about courage that you spoke about, right?
Yeah,
You kinda just have to throw it out there, right?
yeah.
And let the other person on the other side confirm for you, like, "Oh my gosh, this resonates so much with me," that you can then
Hmm.
go, "Okay, I didn't make that up," right? Because it's resonating
Yeah.
so much for them that I couldn't have made it up, right?
Hmm.
So, it really has to be like, there almost has to be a willingness to be a C student,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think too, when I think back to it, I just had such a desire to want to channel. So, and I kept having to remind myself this is like a place of service. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I have no wrong intentions. I'm not like trying to get people, you know? I really just want to be a place of service. So when I remind myself that intention, it feels a lot more from the heart
Yeah.
versus like in my mind. And that feels a lot better too. So sometimes dropping that energy into your heart can really, really help.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
that's beautiful. And I want to ask you this because this has also been my experience and nobody believes me. But I always tell people that it's actually a lot easier to channel for somebody else than it is for yourself. Has this
Oh, yeah.
you?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's funny because, like, there was like a funny reel and it's like, oh, you're a quantum healer. People think you have your shit together. Like,
Right?
like it's, I think I was even reading like a Sylvia Brown book. You know Sylvia Brown? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she often talks a lot about how she could never channel her own information, but she could channel the heck out of anybody and help heal other people. And it was this place of service. Now, I think that's her soul contracts, her things, and I think that's really powerful. And I do think it comes from a place of service, but I also think we can start using those gifts on ourselves. And we're at the same time clearing density, bringing more light into our bodies. That we can start doing that with ourselves.
Yeah.
But we are also human with the ego, with that human vessel, learning how to walk around in this world. So we can't always see it from that objective point of view like we would somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does feel more tricky.
Yeah. We can be very opaque to ourselves, I would
Hmm.
say, right?
Oh,
And also we're a little bit more attached to the outcome and the answer that we're needing. And so
yeah,
be more in that surrendered state and objective, as you said, when there's an answer you're needing and clinging on to, and you don't that's when you kind of have a hard time trusting it for yourself because it's like, well, yeah, I thought of that before, but is that a channeled message, right? Versus when it's
so funny.
else, right? With somebody else, you're like, I have no idea what's going on in your life, so this is what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's really true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So
It's
that
fun.
brings me to then I'm going to step up on my soapbox for one more second, just for the audience's benefit, which is that if you really want to step into your intuitive abilities, you have to practice on other people. You have to step out of the spiritual closet. You have to say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm working on this gift. Can I channel for you? Right. And
Mhm.
then you can get the confirmation, start to trust your gifts more and more. And that really is sort of the fast train to spiritual growth and to intuitive, strengthening your intuitive abilities, right? You kind of have to
Yep.
get over it and just tell people.
Mhm. I know that first hump just feels really, really hard, but it gets easier. It
Does
just does.
yeah, and, of course, there's a big identity shift that comes with it
I
as
know.
right?
I'm like, "Oh, those identity shifts."
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were so many years that I was doing this business full time, and and when I met somebody new, they would ask me, "What do you do?" And I would still say teacher.
Oh gosh, it's so funny. I
Right?
love
Like,
it.
I was, "Oh, yeah, I teach grade 7." Like, no, I haven't done that for years. But, like, I was just so scared to share that with new people and, like, wanting to gauge it. And now I love and I know this is maybe so funny now because I'm like, I love to see what your reaction is gonna be when they say, "What do
I
you"
know. Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
psychic medium.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm
with
like
you on that one too.
'cause then I'm like, "It's on you," right? If your
Yeah.
reaction is a burst, I'm like, "Fine, we don't have to hang out."
It's true. Yeah.
It
I
just
know, such different vibrations.
yeah, it
But
takes time though, for sure.
it does. Take the pressure off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been
I love it.
so
So
beautiful.
fun.
I'm so excited that you're here. I wanna ask you, is there anything else that I didn't get a chance to ask you that you would really love to share with our listeners, as they go on their intuitive journey and their spiritual awakening? Just anything you think they
Mm,
need to hear or that you wanna share?
mm. You know, honestly, this was so powerful. Like, I think we really hit all the major points. And I guess I really just want to bring that sense of ease to your mind, into your body, to your emotions. Is to just let it be easy and drop all the expectations. Drop all the heaviness that you feel like you need to be something and do something, be a certain way, think a certain way. Can you just let it go? Like, as I'm saying it, like, I'm energetically seeing your audience, like, shut it off. And
Yeah.
I want you to, like, kind of do that, right? Like, shut it off and be like, oh, you're safe. You're totally safe and supported. I think most people don't really know how safe and supported they really are until they fully get into this work, but you're supported heavily by your spirit team. The moment you start asking them, they'll be like, yes, 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 yes.
Mm.
And then, you're supported by people like us who create these spaces. You can come and be in community, and it just keeps rippling out from there. We meet new people, we work with new people, and you just like we're always so held. I have mentors, tons of support around me to help me continually move in this direction.
Mm.
So take the pressure off and
Yeah.
trust that you're supported. And that will be huge as you evolve because, like you mentioned early on, we are definitely in a shifted energy that I feel like is very supportive for those that are just unraveling, you know, um, doing the shadow work, as most people say, like really releasing those things they no longer want to carry. The energies on the planet right now are in service to make that really easy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so, so much. And as
You're
you
welcome.
were saying, I could tell you were channeling
Oh,
because
I love that.
my ears are ringing. I'm like, oh, she's calling in some energy right now. It's so beautiful.
I love that.
So beautiful, guys. Well, thank you so, so much. Kristen, where can everybody find you? How can they work with you? I encourage everybody who's listening to this episode to go and find Kristen and definitely go and work with her. She's so magical. But tell us all the things. What do you have going on in
Yeah.
your world and how can we find you?
Yeah. So intergalactic.goddess on Instagram is where you can find me. I've got some really fun content rolling out all about soul contracts and stuff. So if you just want to hear more and learn from me, and I'll be doing like pop-in lives where I do like mini quantum healing. Um, and I also am running a 28-day program. This is actually a really simple program. It's $55 a person. And I will be dropping in a weekly meditation, and every day there's going to be a reflection prompt. So this is for somebody who's like, you're feeling you're not in a positive focus, like you're focused on the negative, and you feel stuck, and you're just feeling in a funk. Like this will pull you out, and I'll be in the chat with live support and things like that. So if you really just want to be in my energy, in a community environment energy, this is for you. I also do one-on-one sessions. If you want a one-on-one quantum healing, just message me on Instagram. We can get that booked. And I've got lots of fun things rolling out too, various programs. I also do Ignite Your Intuition. This is where we really deeply dive, where you get to actually experience in real time with real people on how to strengthen your intuition. It's just really fun. And so that will be rolling out too. So the best way is to get on my Instagram. You can sign up for my newsletters through my website, where you'll get the most up-to-date information. And I think that's it.
Oh my gosh, guys, don't walk, run to her.
You're
Okay?
so
There's
cute.
going to be so you have to go. I think I'm going to go join some of those. They
I
sound
love it.
fun. Oh my goodness. So this has been so beautiful. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Kristen, for coming on the show and for sharing your beautiful gifts with us. I'm just so excited for everybody to hear this. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Love you so much.
Love you too.